Hey guys, tonight, we arrive somewhere you didn't plan to stop in an hour, when even the road itself seems tired of carrying people forward. You are standing at the edge of the Silk Road just after sunset, that in-between time when the sky can't decide whether to glow or fade, and neither can you. The air is cooler now, brushing your face like a reminder that daytime confidence is officially clocked out. You've been walking longer than you meant to. Of course, you have. Everyone on long journeys always walks longer than they mean to. Your legs feel like they've been quietly filing complaints against you all afternoon, and your shoulders carry the familiar, great ache of someone who packed only essentials and then immediately lied to themselves. Somewhere ahead, the road curves gently, and beyond that curve sits something low and square against the horizon. And in a Silk Road inn, the kind built not to impress, but to endure. You pause, because part of you always pauses before shelter. There's a strange instinct there. A flicker of suspicion. Maybe it's modern instinct, maybe it's ancient. But either way, you're thinking you probably wouldn't survive this journey if this place turns out to be terrible. No reviews, no photos, no helpful comment saying, "Great pillows, would stay again." Just walls, a gate, and the promise of rest, if you're lucky. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video. And subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're at it, let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what your local time is. Somewhere out there, someone is listening to this at noon, which feels mildly rebellious for a sleep story. But I respect it. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You step closer to the inn, and details emerge as your eyes adjust. The walls are thick, built from packed earth and brick, their surfaces worn smooth by centuries of wind and hands. This isn't decorative architecture. This is practical stubbornness. These caravanserais roadside inns scattered across the Silk Road are designed to survive sandstorms, thieves, and the occasional argument involving camels with strong opinions. Here's a widely accepted historical fact to settle into. Silk Road inns like this one were placed roughly a day's travel apart, allowing caravans to move in manageable stages rather than heroic, exhausting marathons. Historians agree on that. People liked not collapsing on the road. Very relatable. As you approach the gate, you notice it's already open. Not wide open, just enough. Inviting, but not enthusiastic. The door creaks slightly in the breeze. The sound low and as if it's done this thousands of times and doesn't feel the need to announce it anymore. You step through, and the road behind you doesn't disappear, but it does soften, like a memory that's already starting to blur. Incide, the air changes. It smells faintly of dust, animals, old wood, and something warm cooking somewhere deeper inside. That last smell does most of the convincing for you. Hunger has a way of overriding caution, especially when you've been eating travel food that's technically edible but emotionally disappointing. You realize, standing there, that travelers from wildly different worlds have stood in this same spot. Merchants carrying silk, spices, glass, paper, pilgrims chasing, meaning messengers chasing deadlines that don't care how tired you are. This road, the Silk Road, isn't a single path, but a sprawling network stretching from East Asia to the Mediterranean, China to Persia, Central Asia to Europe, and you, somehow, fit into this mess of movement. There's a lesser-known, quietly charming detail here. Many Silk Road inns require travelers to remove their shoes before fully entering the sleeping areas. Part hygiene, part tradition, part unspoken agreement that the road should stay outside as much as possible. You glance down at your footwear, dusty and stubborn, and already look forward to the moment they come off. Freedom isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it's just unlacing something. The courtyard opens up before you, though you don't step fully into it yet. You're still adjusting. The light inside is dimmer than outside, lanterns casting warm pools of glow against the walls. Shadows stretch lazily, not threatening, just tired. A camel shifts somewhere to your left, exhaling in a way that sounds like it's judging your life choices. You don't argue. You've had a long day. You feel small here, but not unwelcome. That's an important difference. The inn doesn't care who you are, but it does care that you follow the rhythm. Come in, slow down, don't cause trouble. Rest. Leave when it's time. Honestly, it's a better philosophy than most self-help books. As you stand there, you wonder about safety. It's natural. Historians still wonder how secure these inns truly were on an average night. Some accounts describe strict rules and guarded gates. Others suggest things were looser, relying on shared interest rather than force. After all, everyone inside depended on the same fragile peace. Start trouble here, and tomorrow's road gets a lot lonelier. You take another step forward, and the ground beneath your feet feels solid, worn smooth by countless arrivals just like yours. This place has absorbed centuries of exhaustion, relief, quiet conversations, and bad jokes. You can almost feel it in the stones, like residual warmth. A light joke floats through your mind, uninvited but welcome. If ancient travelers had fitness trackers, every single one of them would have ignored the step count after day 3. You smile faintly. Humor survives, even the longest roads. You'll roll your shoulders, easing the tension out inch by inch. The sky above the courtyard is now fully dark, stars beginning to peek through, indifferent but reliable. Somewhere inside, a voice murmurs. Another laughs softly. The inn is alive, but hindi so. Like a place that knows shouting is unnecessary. You're not fully inside the journey yet. Not quite. But you've arrived at the threshold, and that counts for something. The road has carried you here. And for tonight at least, it's willing to let you stop. You breathe in once more, slow and deep, and step fully into the inn.
You step fully into the courtyard, and the space opens around you like a held breath finally released. The walls rise on all sides, thick and steady, doing their quiet job of keeping the world out. Above the sky is a darker blue now, stars scattered unevenly, as if someone dropped them by accident and never bothered to fix it. The courtyard isn't grand. It isn't trying to impress you. It's practical, square, and calm, which after a day on the road feels almost luxurious. The ground beneath your feet is packed earth, worn smooth by hooves, sandals, boots, and the occasional nervous shuffle. A few camels are already settled along one wall, legs folded beneath them in a way that looks deeply uncomfortable, but, judging by their expressions, is apparently ideal. One of them blinks slowly at you, chewing with the unhurried confidence of an animal that knows it has arrived for the night. You briefly envy that level of certainty. This central courtyard is the heart of the inn. That's a widely accepted historical fact. Silk Road inns were almost always built around open courtyards, allowing animals, goods, and people to gather in one protected space. It made unloading easier, kept valuable cargo visible, and allowed everyone to keep an eye on everyone else. Mutual surveillance, but make it cozy. You notice how the sounds behave here. Outside, the road stretched noise-thin wind, distant footsteps, the occasional clink of gear. Inside the courtyard, sounds settle. Voices don't echo sharply. They land softly against the walls and stay close. Someone coughs. Someone murmurs in a language you don't recognize. A waterskin sloshes gently as it's set down. Even the animals seem to lower their volume as if they've agreed on an unspoken nighttime policy. A traveller passes you carrying a bundle wrapped in cloth, nodding once in acknowledgement. Not a greeting, not a warning, just a quiet confirmation that you are both here, and that's enough. Another sits cross-legged near a lantern, rubbing their feet with the dedication of someone who has learned the hard way that foot care is not optional on long journeys. You make a mental note for later. Your future self will thank you. There's a faint smell of straw mingled with warm oil and spices. It drifts lazily through the air, not demanding attention, just offering comfort. Somewhere, something is cooking. You don't know what yet, but your stomach reacts immediately, like it's been waiting all day for permission to complain. Here's a lesser-known detail that feels oddly intimate. Many Silk Road inns doubled as informal marketplaces in the evenings. Travelers would quietly trade small items in the courtyard: extra cloth, bits of spice, a repaired strap. Nothing official, nothing flashy, just practical exchanges between people who understood the value of carrying a little less weight tomorrow. You glance around, wondering what you might trade if you had to. Probably optimism. You seem to be carrying plenty of that for some reason. You shift your pack off one shoulder, then the other, letting it rest against your leg. It's heavier now than it was this morning, even though nothing's been added. That's how days work out here. Weight accumulates invisibly. Fatigue, dust, thoughts you didn't ask for. The courtyard absorbs some of it immediately, like a sponge you didn't realize was waiting. A low trough runs along one side of the space, filled with water that reflects the lantern light in slow ripples. A few travelers kneel nearby, washing hands and faces, movements deliberate and unhurried. Water is precious out here. No one splashes, no one wastes. You kneel too, cupping your hands and letting the coolness settle against your skin. It feels grounding, like the day is finally ending properly instead of just trailing off. There's a light joke that drifts into your mind, soft enough not to wake you later. If modern people experienced this level of communal hygiene awareness, half the world's arguments might dissolve on the spot. You smile faintly, drying your hands on your sleeves, because towels are not a thing you get attached to out here. As you straighten, you notice how the courtyard subtly organizes itself. Animals closest to the walls. Goods stacked neatly, never blocking pathways. People gravitating toward familiar accents, familiar faces, or sometimes deliberately sitting alone, enjoying the rare luxury of being anonymous among strangers. No one tells anyone where to go. The space teaches you. Historians still wonder how much of this order was enforced and how much simply emerged from shared experience. Were there strict rules posted somewhere? Or did centuries of repetition teach travelers exactly how to behave the moment they stepped inside? You suspect it's a bit of both. People are surprisingly good at learning when the alternative is sleeping outside. A man near the center of the courtyard lets out a quiet laugh, shaking his head as he retells a story to two others. You catch only fragments, something about a cartwheel, a river crossing, and an argument that ended when everyone got hungry at the same time. The laughter isn't loud. It's the kind that stays close to the chest, shared rather than performed. You feel your shoulders drop another fraction. The road doesn't disappear here, but it loosens its grip. Your awareness widens, then softens. You're not on guard anymore, not fully relaxed, but not braced either. It's a delicate balance, and the inn seems designed to hold it steady. You take a slow walk around the courtyard, letting your eyes trace the walls. They're thick, built to last, and marked with faint lines and chips records of time rather than decoration. Somewhere above, narrow rooms line the perimeter, their doorways dark for now. You'll get there later. There's no rush. The night is long, and the inn knows how to wait. Another light joke slips in as you watch a camel settle more comfortably. You've seen people spend entire evenings trying to achieve that level of contentment. The camel does it in seconds and immediately looks bored by the accomplishment. You return to the center of the courtyard and stand still for a moment, listening. The lanterns flicker. The animals breathe. The travelers murmur. The inn hums quietly, like a place that has done this so many times it doesn't need to think about it anymore. For tonight, this space holds you. The road can wait outside the walls, pacing if it wants. You've arrived, and the courtyard welcomes you without ceremony, which somehow feels like the highest form of hospitality.
Eventually, without anyone announcing it, the moment arrives when you understand it's time to remove your boots. No bell rings, no sign points dramatically downward. You just feel it in your feet. In the way the ground seems to look back up at you and say, "We've both been through enough today." You find a low bench near the wall, worn smooth by countless travelers who reach this exact conclusion before you. You sit, and the act itself feels ceremonial. Your pack slips from your shoulders and lands beside you with a dull, satisfied thump, like it's grateful to be set down at last. You lean forward, hands working the laces with fingers that feel slightly clumsier than usual. Fatigue does that. Everything becomes a little slower, a little more deliberate, like your body has switched to energy-saving mode. As your boots come off, you notice the relief isn't just physical. It's emotional, too, which is strange considering they're Regis boots, but they've carried dust from 3 regions, crossed ground that tried to trip you, and absorbed heat all day without complaint. Sliding them off feels like setting down a version of yourself that was responsible for getting here. For the night, that version can rest. Here's a widely accepted historical fact that fits perfectly with the moment. Many Silk Road inns encouraged or outright require travelers to remove their footwear in shared sleeping and resting areas. It reduced dirt, protected floor mats, and made the space more livable for everyone. More importantly, it created a subtle boundary between the road and rest. Outside, boots on. Inside, Yasothra. You stretch your toes, wiggling them slightly, enjoying the sensation of cool air against skin that's been trapped all day. There's a faint ache there, a reminder that tomorrow will require these feet again. But that's tomorrow's problem. Right now, the courtyard holds you in a pause. Around you, others are doing the same. One traveler says, audibly, as they peel off a boot, the sound halfway between relief and disbelief, that feet are even capable of surviving this lifestyle. Another laughs quietly, showing a blister to a companion with the resigned humor of someone who's already decided it's not worth being upset about. You notice something charmingly human. Everyone's feet look different, but everyone treats them with the same seriousness here. Out on the road, status might be displayed through goods, animals, or accents. In the courtyard, it's clear that no one's feet are winning any awards. It's oddly comforting. A lesser-known detail slips in as you observe. Some Silk Road inns provided simple foot care rituals, warm water, oils, even basic herbal salves, because innkeepers understood that a traveler who could walk tomorrow was a traveler who would pay, return, and speak well of the place. Ancient customer retention, but for ankles, you consider how modern businesses could learn from this, and then immediately abandon the thought because you're too relaxed to finish it. You rub one foot gently, then the other, pressing your thumbs into the arch until the tension loosens. It feels grounding. Literally, each slow movement anchors you more firmly in the present moment. You're not calculating distances or counting supplies anymore. You're just here, seated on a bench in a courtyard that has seen centuries of people doing exactly this. Someone nearby cracks a soft joke about how their feet now resemble overcooked bread. The comparison is uncomfortably accurate. A few people chuckle, including you, though quietly, like laughter might disturb the peace if it gets too ambitious. You glance around and realize how much lighter the space feels without footwear. The sounds change. Footsteps become softer, more careful. People move differently, aware of the ground beneath them in a way that feels respectful. The inn seems to approve. Historians still wonder how universal these customs truly were. Did every inn enforce shoe removal, or did practices vary wildly from region to region? Written records are vague, and travelers rarely bothered to document such ordinary details. But standing here, you sense that even without rules, the habit would have emerged naturally. Comfort has a way of teaching people what matters. You tuck your boots neatly beside the bench, aligning them almost unconsciously. Order feels good right now. It's a small thing, but it gives you a sense of control in a world where much is unpredictable. Another traveler does the same, and you share a brief glance of mutual understanding. No words needed. This is how we survive tomorrow. Your shoulders drop another notch as the last bit of road tension releases its hold. You lean back slightly, stretching your spine, letting the night air cool your skin. The lantern light flickers, and shadows shift lazily along the walls. Somewhere, a pot is stirred. Somewhere else, a camel snorts in its sleep, which is both impressive and mildly alarming. A second light joke drifts in, barely formed. If relaxation were measured in layers, removing your boots just peeled off the thickest one. Everything underneath is easier now. You take a slow breath, feeling the courtyard settle around you like a shared exhale. Tomorrow will bring movement, noise, decisions. But for now, you're barefoot, grounded, and exactly where you need to be. Once your boots are off and your feet have forgiven you just enough to remain cooperative, you're drawn back toward the water. It's not dramatic thirst, more like a quiet pull, the kind that reminds you your body has been working without proper maintenance all day. You kneel again at the trough. This time, lingering. The water reflects your face in broken pieces, lantern light wobbling across it like a thought that won't quite settle. You scoop water into your hands and bring it up slowly, letting it run over your fingers before splashing your face. Dust dissolves, heat releases. The day loosens its grip, one layer at a time. Around you, others are doing the same. Each person absorbed in their own small ritual. No one ruses, no one talks loudly. This is not a place for efficiency. It's a place for restoration. Here's a widely accepted historical fact that fits the moment perfectly. Shared water sources were central to Silk Road inns, carefully managed and often rationed because hydration was survival. Travelers knew water wasn't just for drinking, it was for washing, calming, and resetting after long hours of movement. Cleanliness here wasn't about luxury. It was about being able to continue. As you rinsed your hands again, you hear voices behind you. Not raised, not directed at anyone in particular, just conversation drifting. You catch fragments, names of cities you've heard of, and some you haven't. Jokes that don't translate fully, but still land somewhere between amusing and confusing. Laughter ripples through the group, soft and brief, like it knows better than to overstay. A man nearby tells a story about a bridge that wasn't there when it was supposed to be. He gestures with wet hands, water droplets flying in small arcs. Someone interrupts with a correction. Someone else insists the bridge was definitely there, just invisible because of fog, bad luck, or possibly poor navigation. The debate dissolves into laughter before anyone feels the need to be right. You dry your face on your sleeve against still no towels and lean back on your heels, listening. There's something deeply comforting about not being included directly. You're allowed to just absorb. to overhear, to be present without performing. Modern life could really benefit from this option more often. A lesser-known detail surfaces gently. Many travelers on the Silk Road intentionally shared exaggerated or humorous stories partly for entertainment, partly as a subtle way to pass along warnings, without sounding alarmist. A tale about a haunted pass might really mean bandits. A joke about a cursed river might mean unreliable ferries. Information wrapped in humor traveled further and stuck better. You file that away, amused by the idea that storytelling has always been a low-key survival tool. Someone offers you a comment without looking directly at you, something about the water being colder than usual tonight. You nod and agree, even though you have no baseline for comparison. It feels polite. It feels right. Connection here doesn't demand depth, just acknowledgement. You notice how the act of washing seems to soften everyone. Shoulders drop, movements slow, voices lower. The inn seems to breathe with you, the courtyard settling into a shared rhythm. This isn't just about removing dirt. It's about shedding the road's urgency, the constant forward motion that doesn't allow for pauses. A light joke drifts into your thoughts. If arguments were required to wait until after communal hand-washing, global conflict might decrease significantly. You almost smile at the idea, but it stays internal, quiet enough not to ripple outward. Historians still wonder how often travelers from opposing regions or cultures found themselves sharing these spaces peacefully. The Silk Road connected empires that weren't always friendly. And yet here, water is shared without suspicion. Was it necessity that overrode politics? Or did the simple act of being equally exhausted make everyone more reasonable? Your suspect fatigue deserves more credit than it gets. As you rise to your feet, you feel cleaner, lighter. Not just physically, but mentally. Your thoughts aren't racing ahead anymore. They're meandering, like the stories you're overhearing unstructured, comfortable, unbothered by conclusions. Nearby, a traveler finishes washing and shakes out their hands, droplets catching the lantern light before disappearing into the ground. Another pours a careful amount of water into a small cup, offering it to a companion without ceremony. No one thanks them loudly. Gratitude here is implied, understood, folded into the rhythm of shared survival. You step back from the trough and glance around the courtyard once more. The sounds blend together, now soft conversation, animal breathing, the faint clink of metal as someone adjusts a strap. It's all becoming background, the way good background should. Present, but not demanding. You realize, with a gentle sense of surprise, that you're starting to feel like you belong here. Not in a permanent way, just enough to relax into the moment, just enough to let the night take over. The road will call again tomorrow. For now, your hands are clean, your face is cool, and your mind is beginning to drift, buoyed by shared water and shared stories. You don't notice the innkeeper at first, which is probably exactly how they prefer it. They seem to materialize rather than arrive, standing near the edge of the courtyard as if they've always been there, quietly supervising the flow of the evening. Their posture is relaxed but alert, like someone who has learned that calm authority works better than shouting ever could. The innkeeper watches, without staring. They take in details the way experienced people do, quick glances, small adjustments, a hand signal here, a nod there. Someone shifts their goods slightly, making space for another traveler. An animal is guided gently to a better spot along the wall. Nothing dramatic happens, yet everything runs smoothly, as if the night is following a script only one person has read. Here's a widely accepted historical fact that settles into place. Silk Road inns were usually managed by innkeepers who acted as hosts, guards, and mediators all at once. They were responsible not just for lodging, but for maintaining order among strangers who shared nothing except exhaustion and a desire to leave alive the next morning. It was a job that required patience, sharp judgment, and an impressive tolerance for nonsense. You catch the innkeepers. I briefly. There's no suspicion there, just assessment. You're weighed, not judged. Satisfied, they look away, attention already shifting to the next small problem before it becomes a real one. You feel oddly relieved, like you've passed a test you didn't know you were taking. When the innkeeper finally speaks, it's to no one in particular. A reminder about where animals should be tied, a gentle warning about keeping the central path clear. Their voices calm, dry, and edged with the kind of humor that's been sharpened by repetition. Someone responds with a joking complaint. The innkeeper lifts an eyebrow and replies with something that makes nearby travelers chuckle and immediately comply. A lesser-known detail slips in quietly. Many innkeepers along the Silk Road were former travelers themselves. They had walked the roads, slept in other courtyards, learned firsthand what people needed at the end of a long day. Running an inn wasn't just a business. It was a second career built on accumulated road wisdom. You can hear it in the way they speak. Nothing rushed, nothing rushed. You watch as the innkeeper settles a minor dispute over sleeping space. Two travelers gesture at the same corner, both claiming it was promised to them earlier. The innkeeper listens without interrupting, nods once, then suggests a compromise that somehow satisfies both parties. You're not entirely sure how, but it works. They walk away, muttering good-naturedly, already over it. A light joke drifts through your mind. This person could probably negotiate peace between thunderstorms. You tuck that thought away, smiling faintly. The innkeeper moves closer now, stopping near you. They glance at your pack, then at your feet bare, relaxed, behaving as expected. Approval, subtle but present. They gesture toward a section of the courtyard where sleeping spaces are being claimed but not yet crowded. It's not an order. It's a suggestion. You nod in thanks, though no words are exchanged. Historians still wonder how much authority innkeepers truly held. Were they backed by local rulers, trade guilds, or simply by reputation? Records are inconsistent. Some inns appear to have been tightly regulated, others surprisingly informal. Standing error watching this person work, you suspect authority came less from rules and more from trust. Everyone here wants the same thing: a quiet night and a safe departure. The innkeeper pauses near a lantern, adjusting its wick slightly so the light spreads more evenly. It's a small action, but it changes the feel of the space immediately. Shadows soften. Corners become less intimidating. You realize this job isn't about control. It's about atmosphere. Someone nearby offers the innkeeper a bit of food, a small gesture of appreciation. They accept with a nod, no fuss, tucking it away for later. Generosity here doesn't demand performance. It just exists, practical and understated. As the innkeeper moves on, the courtyard seems to relax further. Like children settling once a trusted adult enters the room. Conversations continue but quieter now. Movements slow. The night deepens, and the inn slides gently into its next phase. You find yourself trusting this place more than you expected. Not blindly, just enough to let your guard down another notch. You're still a traveler, still passing through. But for tonight, someone else is watching the edges, keeping the balance, and that, you realize, is a rare and comforting thing. You follow the innkeeper's earlier gesture toward the sleeping area. Not because you're told to, but because it feels like the natural next step in the evening's slow unwinding. The sleeping spaces aren't rooms in the way you might expect. There are no doors to close yourself away from the world. No illusion of privacy wrapped in wood and hinges. Instead, there are long platforms lining the inner walls, layered with woven mats, blankets, and the accumulated patience of centuries. You pause at the edge, taking it in. Strangers are already settling in, some lying flat, some sitting upright, backs against the wall, adjusting packs into makeshift pillows. There's a choreography to it, quiet and practiced. People leave enough space for one another without being asked. Elbows negotiate gently. Personal boundaries are acknowledged, even if they're thinner than you're used to. Here's a widely accepted historical fact that fits seamlessly into the scene. Most Silk Road inns offered communal sleeping areas rather than private rooms. Space was maximized, warmth was shared, and safety improved when everyone stayed visible. Privacy, out here, was a luxury traded for survival. You understand that immediately. Alone feels less appealing when the night is long and unfamiliar. You choose a spot near the wall, close enough to feel anchored, far enough from the center to avoid being stepped over. You set your pack down and use it to claim the space without announcing it. No one challenges you. A traveler nearby gives a brief nod, the universal signal for yes, this is fine. As you lower yourself onto the mat, you're struck by how firm it is. Not uncomfortable, just honest. This surface isn't pretending to be a bed. It's saying, I will support you, but I will not coddle you. Fair enough. You stretch out carefully, testing the space, making sure you're not encroaching. Someone shifts slightly to accommodate you, and you murmur a quiet thanks. They respond with a sleepy hum that could mean anything, from "you're welcome" to "please don't talk anymore." A lesser-known detail floats in gently. Communal sleeping wasn't just about efficiency. It also discouraged theft. With everyone lying shoulder to shoulder, it was much harder for someone to rummage through belongings unnoticed. Social pressure did what locks could not. You glance at the packs around you, clustered close, and feel oddly secure despite the openness. You adjust your pack under your head, experimenting until the angle feels right. It doesn't. You try again. Still not right. Eventually, you accept that comfort here is approximate, not perfect. That acceptance itself feels like progress. A light joke slips. In this is the ancient equivalent of sleeping on a friend's couch. You're grateful, but you won't pretend it's ideal. Around you, the room settles. Lanterns are dimmed slightly, light retreating to soft pools that don't quite reach the ceiling. Conversations fade into murmurs, then into silence, punctuated by the occasional cough or sigh. Someone clears their throat with theatrical restraint, as if apologizing to the entire group for the noise. Historians still wonder how people adjusted so easily to sleeping among strangers. Was it necessity? Habit? Or did communal rest feel less strange in a world where solitude was rare? Lying here, listening to the slow rhythm of breathing around you, you suspect it felt normal because it was normal. Alone time, as a concept, might have been the real oddity. You turn onto your side, drawing your blanket closer. The scent of dust and fabric and faint smoke surrounds you, not unpleasant, just present. It smells like travel, like effort, like the end of a day that asked a lot and finally stopped asking. A second light joke drifts through your thoughts. If anyone snores tonight, they'll become a legend by morning. You listen carefully. For now, the soundscape is mercifully gentle. Your body begins to sink into the mat, muscles releasing one by one. You're aware of others around you, but not bothered by them. There's comfort in the shared vulnerability, in knowing that everyone here has chosen rest over motion, at least for a few hours. As your eyes grow heavier, the inn feels less like a stop and more like a quasi-collective agreement to be still together. The road is quiet beyond the walls. Inside, the night wraps around you, communal and calm. Sleep almost takes you, but not quite. There's a gentle interruption, the kind that doesn't startle so much as redirect. The smell reaches you first warm, spiced, faintly sweet. Food, real food, not the dry, optimistic rations you've been convincing yourself count as meals. Your stomach responds immediately, loud enough that you briefly wonder if the entire sleeping platform heard it. No one reacts. Either they didn't notice, or everyone's stomach is doing the same thing. You sit up slowly, careful not to disturb anyone nearby. A few others are already moving toward the far side of the courtyard where a low fire burns. It's light, softer now. Controlled, deliberate. This isn't a feast. It's a late, shared meal, designed to settle people, not energize them. You follow, feeling the mat release you reluctantly, like it would prefer you stayed still. Here's a widely accepted historical fact that grounds the moment. Many Silk Road inns provided simple evening meals, often included in the cost of lodging or offered communally to reduce waste and effort. Cooking once for many made sense in a place where fuel, time, and daylight were limited. Efficiency, but with warmth. You lower yourself onto a low cushion near the fire. A pot sits suspended just above the embers, steam rising lazily from its surface. Someone stirs it with the unhurried confidence of a person who has stirred many pots and sees no reason to rush this one. Bowls are passed hand to hand. No one asks, "What's in the pot?" That question feels unnecessary here. When your bowl reaches you, it's warm against your palms. The contents are thick, fragrant with spices you recognize and some you don't. There's bread too flat, simple, torn rather than cut. You dip it into the bowl and take a small bite. Careful not to burn your tongue. The flavor spreads slowly, comforting rather than exciting. Tea's food eyes in. Tea, trying, to impress you. It's trying to help you sleep. A lesser-known detail drifts in quietly. Communal meals like this weren't just about nourishment. They were opportunities to exchange information under the cover of casual conversation. Trade routes shifted. Weather patterns changed. Borders tightened or relaxed. Much of this knowledge moved not through official announcements, but through bowls passed across fires like this one. You listen as people speak, half aware that even now, information is being traded alongside food. Someone mentions a city ahead where prices have risen. Another counters that it depends which gate you enter. A third shrugs and says prices always rise somewhere. The conversation doesn't deepen. It doesn't need to. You take another bite, letting the warmth spread through you, down into your chest, into places that have been tight all day. A light joke flickers through your mind. If every negotiation started with a shared meal, a lot fewer deals would end in shouting. You glance around. No one is shouting. Everyone seems content to chew and listen. Historians still wonder how standardized meals were across the Silk Road. Did inns follow regional recipes? Did travelers influence the food by bringing spices and preferences from afar? Standing at a tasting, something that feels both familiar and new. You suspect the answer is yes. The Silk Road didn't just move goods, it blended flavors, slowly and quietly. You notice how people eat at different speeds. Some linger over every bite, eyes half closed. Others finish quickly, already drifting toward sleep. No one comments. No one rushes the slower eaters. Time behaves differently here, bending gently around human needs instead of pushing them forward. The fire crackles softly. Someone feeds it another small piece of wood, careful not to let the flames rise too high. Light dances across faces, revealing lines of fatigue, moments of peace. For a brief while, everyone looks less like a traveler and more like a person who belongs somewhere. You finish your bowl and pass it back without ceremony. Your hands are warm now, your stomach settled. The edge of sleep returns, stronger this time, pulling at you with patient insistence. As you stand to return to your sleeping space, you realize how this meal has anchored you, not just physically, but socially. You're no longer just passing through the inn. You've participated. You've shared heat, food, and quiet. Back on your mat, you lie down again, this time more easily. The sounds of eating fade, replaced by softer noises bowls set aside. Fire settling into embers. The inn exhales, readying itself for deeper night. Your body sinks into rest, warmed by spices, soothed by routine, and comforted by the knowledge that even on the longest roads, someone always thought to keep the pot warm. Sleep doesn't arrive all at once. It circles. It waits. You lie on your mat, eyes half closed, listening as the inn settles into a quieter rhythm. The fire has softened into a glow, no longer crackling, just breathing. Somewhere nearby, someone adjusts their blanket with exaggerated care, as if gravity itself might complain if they move too quickly. Voices drift through the space, low and not conversations aimed at anyone in particular, just sounds of people existing together. What strikes you is how many languages you hear, or fragments of them. At least, syllables rise and fall, unfamiliar rhythms brushing past your awareness like wind through tall grass. You don't understand the words, but you understand the intent. Tired.com, here. Here's a widely accepted historical fact that hums quietly beneath the moment. The Silk Road connected dozens of cultures and languages, making places like this in some of the most linguistically diverse spaces in the pre-modern world. Merchants, pilgrims, envoys, and wanderers all pass through, carrying not just goods, but accents, idioms, and ways of thinking. You're lying in the middle of it now, wrapped in a blanket and listening. Someone nearby speaks in a language that sounds sharp and clipped, consonants clicking together like small stones. Another responds in a slower, rounder tone, vowels stretching comfortably. They don't fully understand each other, and yet the exchange continues. Histuda's help tone fills the gaps. A shared chuckle seals the deal. Communication, it turns out, doesn't always need precision. Sometimes it just needs goodwill and enough patience to let silence do some of the work. A lesser-known detail slips in. Many travelers along the Silk Road relied on a kind of improvised trade language, simple phrases, borrowed words, hand signals enough, to negotiate prices, ask for directions, or request water. Fluency was rare. Adaptability was essential. Listening mattered more than speaking. You consider how refreshing that sounds, then remember how exhausting it must have been, and decide both can be true. You shift slightly, adjusting your blanket. The mat beneath you is firm but familiar now. Like your body has recalibrated its expectations, the sounds around you blur into something almost musical. A cough becomes percussion. A murmur becomes melody. The inn hums softly, a living thing stitched together by shared fatigue. A light joke drifts through your thoughts, lazy and unpolished. If someone here invented subtitles for real life, they'd retire rich. You smile faintly, eyes closed, amused by your own mental wondering. Historians still wonder how misunderstandings shaped these interactions. How many deals failed because of a misplaced gesture? How many friendships formed because someone misheard a word and laughed instead of arguing? Lying here, surrounded by voices you don't understand but don't fear. You suspect the road taught people a valuable skill: how to let go of needing to be perfectly understood. A voice rises slightly, telling a short story. You don't catch the details, but the tone is playful, self-deprecating. Laughter follows, brief and soft, like a shared secret. The sound fades quickly, absorbed by the walls. No one claps, no one asks for more. This isn't entertainment, it's release. Your breathing slows, sinking unconsciously with the space around you. Inhale, exhale. The lantern light flickers once, 10 stadies. Shadows stretch and soften, losing their edges. You're aware, dimly, that tomorrow you'll need words again, questions, negotiations, directions. But for now, language loosens its grip. You don't need to understand everything to feel at ease here. The inn doesn't demand comprehension. It offers presence, and that, you realize as sleep finally begins to settle, is more than enough. You're not fully asleep yet. Not quite. You hover in that gentle in-between, where thoughts loosen their edges and sounds become more important than ideas. The inn has slipped into its nighttime voice now, quieter but not silent, like someone whispering to avoid waking a room full of tired friends. The first sound you notice is breathing. Not your own, though, that's there too. Slow and steady, but the collective breathing of the space around you. It rises and falls unevenly, a patchwork of rhythms stitched together by exhaustion. Someone exhales with a faint whistle. Another breathes deeply, confidently, as if sleep has already claimed them without negotiation. Beyond that, there are the animals. A camel shifts its weight, the movement heavy and deliberate, followed by a long, dramatic sigh that suggests it has opinions about the day. A donkey stamps once, then settles. These sounds don't startle you, they ground you. Out here, animals aren't background noise, they're part of the night's structure. Here's a widely accepted historical fact that fits perfectly into this moment. Silk Road inns were designed to house animals and humans, together within the same enclosed space, usually with animals kept in the courtyard and people sleeping along the walls. This arrangement conserved warmth, improved security, and made early departures easier. It also meant you always knew you weren't alone. For better or worse, a breeze slips through the courtyard, gentle but persistent, carrying with it the faint scent of dust and cooled stone. It brushes across your face. 10 mobiles, on like it has places to be. Somewhere above, a loose wooden beam taps softly against the wall in the wind. Pause. Taps steady enough to be almost hypnotic. A lesser known detail floats in quietly. Many travelers describe these inns at night as sounding alive, not haunted, but inhabited by layers of movement, animals, people, weather, and architecture, all interacting. Silence, true silence, was rare. Instead, there was this constant, low presence. Listening to it was part of learning to sleep on the road. You adjust your position slightly, careful not to disturb anyone. The mat creaks faintly beneath you, then stills. No one complains. Everyone understands that finding the perfect sleeping position is a personal journey that takes time and patience. A light joke drifts through your thoughts, uninvited but welcome. If modern sleep apps tried to recreate this soundscape, they'd label it something like Ancient Caravan Night No. 3 inches and charge extra for it. You almost smile, but the thought dissolves before it fully forms. Historians still wonder how deeply travelers slept in places like this. Was rest lighter, more alert, shaped by the need to respond quickly if something went wrong? Or did exhaustion override caution completely? Lying here now, you feel the answer might have changed from night to night. Tonight, at least, the inn feels steady, protective, willing to hold you. A cough echoes softly, followed by the rustle of fabric. Someone murmurs a word you don't recognize, then goes quiet again. The fire sighs as an ember collapses inward. The lanterns dim further, their light retreating until shadows take over most of the work. Your thoughts begin to drift without direction. Images float up roads, stretching ahead, lanterns swinging gently, bowls passed hand to hand. They don't connect into a story. They don't need to. Your mind is doing what it's meant to do now. Letting go. Outside the walls, the road waits. Inside, the inn hums softly, breathing with you, with everyone. The night wraps around the space, patient and unhurried, and you drift deeper into it, carried by the sounds of travelers, animals, and ancient walls doing what they've always done. Just before sleep fully claims you, it loosens its grip again, the way it sometimes does, giving you a brief window where the world sharpens just enough to notice small, human things. Somewhere close by, a quiet laugh slips out, quickly stifled, like it escaped by accident. Another follows, softer, then another. The sound spreads gently, never rising above a murmur. You open your eyes, just a fraction. A few travelers are still awake, propped on elbows or sitting cross-legged on their mats, sharing the kind of jokes that only make sense at the end of a long day. These aren't clever jokes, no punchlines worth repeating. They're dry, practical observations about sore feet, stubborn animals, and the questionable wisdom of certain routes. Humor here doesn't aim high. It aims wide. Here's a widely accepted historical fact that fits comfortably into this moment. Humor and storytelling were common tools for bonding among Silk Road travelers, especially at night, when movement stopped and the mind finally had space to wander. Shared laughter helped ease tension between strangers who might never meet again, creating brief communities that lasted exactly as long as the fire stayed warm. Someone mutters a comment about how their camel clearly believes it's the smartest one in the group. Another replies that all camels believe this, and that arguing otherwise is pointless. A third adds that camels and merchants share more traits than anyone likes to admit. The laughter that follows is quiet but sincere, the kind that shakes shoulders rather than fills rooms. A lesser-known detail slips in gently. Some inns actively encouraged light conversation before sleep, believing it kept people relaxed and less prone to nighttime anxieties or conflicts. Silence could feel heavy when shared among strangers. Soft voices helped smooth the edges. You listen without contributing, content to be part of the circle without being in its center. A light joke floats through your own thoughts. If sarcasm were a trade good, it would travel exceptionally well on this road. You let the idea drift, unfinished, and it fades into the background hum of voices. Historians still wonder how often these fleeting connections turned into lasting relationships. Did people recognize each other years later, in another city? Or did these nights blur together, each one distinct and yet indistinguishable? You suspect both happened. Memory, like the road, chooses what to keep. The laughter dies down naturally, no one forcing an ending. One by one, voices taper off, replaced by longer pauses, deeper breaths. Someone clears their throat softly, then settles back onto their mat. The last joke lingers in the air for a moment before dissolving into sleep. You feel the weight of rest return, heavier now, more ins. Your body sinks into the mat again. Muscles finally convinced there's nothing left to do tonight. The inn grows quieter, but not empty. Presence remains, steady and reassuring. As your eyes close fully this time, you carry the echo of those small jokes with you, not because they were funny in any grand sense, but because they were shared. And that, on a long road, matters more than wit. Sleep takes you in layers rather than all at once. You drift, surface, then drift again, thoughts dissolving and reforming without asking your permission. Somewhere in that soft middle space, dreams begin to gather not vivid scenes, but impressions, distance, motion, the feeling of always moving forward without quite remembering why. You're aware of the even as you dream. The walls don't disappear, they blur. The sounds of breathing and wind weave themselves into your thoughts, becoming part of whatever half-formed images pass through your mind. You dream of roads that stretch gently instead of endlessly, of footsteps that don't ache, of destinations that aren't urging. Here's a widely accepted historical fact that fits quietly here. Long-distance travel along the Silk Road was as mentally demanding as it was physical. Many travelers wrote about fatigue that went beyond sore muscles, deep weariness shaped by uncertainty, isolation, and constant sleep, when it came, often carried the mind far beyond the body's resting place. You feel that now, your thoughts wandering more freely than your feet ever could. In your dream, voices return, not specific ones, just the idea of them. Languages blend together, forming a soft murmur that feels reassuring rather than confusing. You don't need to understand anything. Meaning arrives without translation, a marketplace without urgency, an inn without walls, a road that moves at your pace for once. A lesser known detail drifts in like a quiet aside. Some historical accounts suggest travelers believed dreams on the road carried encouragements, glimpses of what lay ahead. Whether taken seriously or not, dreams were often shared in the morning, compared like notes, half laughed off and half considered. You wonder, dimly, whether tomorrow someone here will mention a strange dream and whether you'll recognize pieces of your own. In it, a light joke flickers through even your dreaming mind. If dreams really predicted the future, someone would have figured out how to monetize them by now. The thought is gentle enough not to wake you, and it dissolves into a slower, deeper rhythm. Historians still wonder how much travelers relied on intuition versus planning. Did dreams influence decisions, or were they simply the mind's way of sorting through too much information at once? Floating here between sleep and waking, you suspect the answer isn't fixed. Sometimes a dream is just a dream. Sometimes it's the only quiet space left for the mind to speak. Your breathing slows further. The edges of awareness soften. The in feels distant now, though still present, like a hand resting lightly on your shoulder. Outside, the night continues its patient watch. Inside, bodies rest, minds wander, and the road recedes into the background. You sink deeper, thoughts stretching out and thinning, until even the idea of distance begins to fade. For now, there is only rest, and the gentle promise that the road will still be there when you wake. You wake before, you mean too. Not abruptly, not with alarm, but with a soft awareness that something has shifted. The inn feels different now, lighter, quieter in a new way. Night hasn't fully let go, but it's loosening its hold, and the darkness carries a hint of blue at its edges. Dawn is approaching, politely, without making a scene. Around you, people move carefully, as if the air itself might be sleeping. Fabric rustles, a strap is tightened with practiced fingers. Someone coughs once, apologetically, then stills. Lanterns are being dimmed rather than extinguished, their light shrinking until it feels almost private. You remain lying for a moment, eyes half closed, listening. Here's a widely accepted historical fact that fits neatly into this hour. Silk Road travelers often rose before sunrise to take advantage of cooler temperatures and calmer animals. Early departures weren't about discipline. They were about survival and efficiency. Heat was the real schedule out here, and everyone knew it. You sit up slowly, stretching without drama. Your body registers the mat, the blanket, the faint stiffness from yesterday's miles. Nothing hurts sharply. Everything just feels used in a good way. You swing your legs over the edge of the platform and plant your feet on the ground, toes curling instinctively, as if checking that the world is still solid. Nearby, someone is already packing, movements economical and quiet. They fold fabric into precise rectangles, roll it tightly, Secure it with twine that's been tied and untied more times than either of you could count. Another traveler pauses mid-task, staring into space for a moment along the universal sign of someone mentally walking today's road before their body joins in. A lesser-known detail drifts in gently. Mornings at Silk Road inns were often quieter than evenings. The day demanded focus. Energy was conserved. Conversations were shorter, more practical. People saved their words for later. When the road had taken its share again, you feel that restraint now. The unspoken agreement to move gently. You reach for your boots, still waiting where you left them. They look less intimidating in the morning light. As if they've rested too, you slide your feet inside slowly, tightening the laces with care. The moment they're on, something shifts in you. Responsibility returns. Direction sharpens. You're back in travel mode, though not fully awake yet. A light joke wanders through your thoughts. If Boots had opinions, they'd be very smug right now. You suppress a smile, not wanting to break the quiet. Historians still wonder how much coordination existed among travelers at dawn. Did groups deliberately depart together for safety? Or did everyone simply follow similar rhythms, creating the illusion of planning? Watching people move around you, you suspect it was instinct more than strategy. When the light changes, Bodhis respond. You stand and take a slow look around the courtyard. The animals are stirring, two stretching, snorting, shifting their weight. Someone murmurs to a camel, tone, gentle, familiar. The innkeeper is already awake, of course, moving through the space with the same calm authority as the night before. Checking that nothing has been left behind, nothing overlooked, you gather your pack, settling its weight onto your shoulders. It feels heavier than when you arrived, though you know nothing's been added. That's the cost of rested. Reminds you what you'll carry forward. The sky above the courtyard brightens incrementally, colors creeping in without permission. Another day is forming, quietly, insistently. You take a breath, deep and steady, letting the calm of the night linger just a moment longer before the road claims you again. Packing is never loud here. No one zips anything shut. No one slams a lid or drops a bundle by accident. Everything is wrapped, folded, tied, and adjusted with the careful focus of people who understand that noise carries in the early morning, and so does irritation. You follow suit. Movements, slow, deliberate, as if rushing might fracture the fragile calm the night worked so hard to build. You tighten the last strap on your pack and test the weight by shifting your shoulders. It settles into place with a familiar tug. Not comfortable, but expected. The kind of weight that says, yes, you're moving again. Around you, others do the same quiet check, lifting packs slightly, adjusting balance, redistributing loads with the subtle seriousness of people who know small mistakes grow large over long distances. Here's a widely accepted historical fact that fits naturally into this moment. Departures from Silk Road inns rarely happened all at once. Travelers left in loose waves, guided by destination, animal readiness, and personal rhythm rather than formal schedules. There was no bell to signal departure. The road itself set the pace. You step into the courtyard, now bathed in early light. The walls look softer in daylight, less imposing, their textures revealed instead of hidden. Dust hangs in the air, illuminated briefly as people move through it, then settles again. Animals are being ready, ropes checked, loads secured. Gentle murmurs offered as reassurance. There's no urgency, but there is intention. A lesser-known detail surfaces quietly. Many travelers performed small, personal rituals before leaving and in touching a wall, pausing at the gate, whispering a word of thanks or luck. These acts weren't religious in any formal sense. They were human. A way to acknowledge a place that had kept them safe for the night. You find yourself resting your hand briefly against the wall as you pass, feeling the cool solidity beneath your palm. A light joke flickers through your thoughts. If these walls could charge for emotional support, they'd be very wealthy by now. The idea makes you smile faintly, though you keep it to yourself. Historians still wonder how travelers chose their companions for the next stretch of road. Did they plan deliberately, seeking strength in numbers? Or did people simply drift into temporary groups without discussion, bound by coincidence and shared direction? Watching small clusters form and dissolve around you, you suspect it was less strategy and more instinct. You walk beside someone for a while, then you don't. Both feel normal. The innkeeper stands near the gate, offering brief nods as people pass. No speeches, no instructions, just acknowledgement. When you meet their gaze, they incline their head slightly. It's not a farewell. Exactly, more like a confirmation that the exchange is complete. You stayed. You rested. You're leaving. That's the agreement. As you step through the gate, the road opens in front of you again, pale and quiet, stretching out like a thought that hasn't fully formed yet. The inn remains behind you, already beginning to shrink in importance as forward motion takes over. You resist the urge to turn back immediately. There will be time for that. You take your first steps of the day slowly, letting your body adjust to the weight, the rhythm, the return of purpose. Each footfall feels measured, intentional. You're not rushing. The road isn't going anywhere. Behind you, the inn continues its morning routine, welcoming the light, preparing for the next arrivals who will come tired and hopeful, just like you did. Ahead, the path waits, patient and indifferent, ready to accept whatever pace you offer. You move forward, carrying not just your pack, but the quiet steadiness of a night well spent. You don't walk far before the filling arrives, subtle tug that asks you to look back. It's not regret. It's not hesitation. It's something gentler, like your mind wanting to bookmark a moment before turning the page. You slow, just enough to allow it, and turn your head. The inn sits behind you, solid and unbothered, already returning to its daytime shape. In the morning light, it looks smaller than it did last night. Less mysterious, more practical. Walls that held warmth now hold shadow. The open gate frames the courtyard where movement continues. Quietly so on. Adjusting a load. An animal being led into place. The innkeeper already Life goes on without ceremony. Here's a widely accepted historical fact that fits this pause. Silk Road inns were designed to be memorable without being personal. They served thousands of travelers, most of whom would never return, and yet their consistent structure made them feel familiar each time. A known shape in an uncertain world. You recognize that feeling now, the comfort of something dependable, even when it isn't yours. You take in details you missed before. The uneven edge of the wall, the way the gate leans slightly, as if tired but still doing its job. The dust already settling back into the courtyard, erasing footprints with quiet efficiency. By tonight, someone else will arrive, tired and hopeful, and none of this will remember you, specifically. And somehow, that doesn't sting. A lesser-known detail drifts in softly. Some travelers marked inns on personal maps, not by name, but by memory. The one with the cold water, the one where the bread was good, the one where no one asked questions. These places lived on not in records, but in impressions. You suspect this inn will become one of those for you. Not a location, but a feeling. A light joke wanders through your thoughts. If nostalgia had a schedule, it would always arrive inconveniently early. You exhale, amused, and let the moment stretch just a little longer. Historians still wonder how often travelers reflected like this, whether looking back was common, or whether most people kept their eyes forward, focused on distance rather than memory. Standing era, you think the answer depends on the night. Some places deserve a glance back. Others don't earn it. This, one, dos. You turn forward again, the road reclaiming your attention without resistance. The path ahead curves gently, the surface pale and waiting. Your steps fall into rhythm, and the inn begins to slip out of focus behind you. Not erased, just stored somewhere quieter. As you walk, you realize the calm you feel isn't tied to the building itself. It's something you're carrying now, borrowed for the night, kept for the day. The road feels a little less demanding. The distance a little less heavy. You don't look back again. One glance was enough. The inn has done its work, and so have you. The road has fully claimed the morning now. The light is steady, no longer tentative, and the air has warmed just enough to feel welcoming rather than urgent. Your steps have found their rhythm and conscious, even each one landing where it should. Each breath syncing naturally with movement. This is the part of travel no one announces. It simply happens, and suddenly you're inside it. You walk alongside others for a while without speaking. Companionship here doesn't require conversation. It's enough to share direction, to match pace for a stretch of road, then drift apart again when paths diverge. You notice how easily these temporary alliances form and dissolve, like clouds agreeing to travel together before remembering their independent things. Here's a widely accepted historical fact that fits the moment. Much of the Silk Road was traveled not in grand caravans, but in small, shifting groups that changed composition frequently. Safety came from proximity, not permanence. People understood that connection didn't need commitment to be meaningful. You feel that truth now, walking beside someone whose name you don't know and don't need. The landscape opens slowly around you. Low hills, sparse vegetation, a horizon that feels close enough to touch and distant enough to ignore. You adjust your pack slightly, redistributing the weight with practiced ease. Your body remembers how to do this. Muscles warm, joints loosen. Travel becomes less effort and more state of being. A lesser-known detail floats gently into your awareness. Many travelers described a mental quiet that arrived after leaving an inn. Once the road reclaimed their focus, worries softened. Thoughts stretched out. The mind, like the body, adapted to movement. You recognize that quiet now. It settles in without asking permission. A light joke drifts through your thoughts. Modern meditation apps would struggle to compete with this. No subscription required. Just several hundred miles of walking. You almost laugh, but it comes out as a soft exhale instead. Historians still wonder how travelers measured progress psychologically, whether distance was counted in miles, days, orens. Remembered along the way. As you walk, you suspect it was none of those. Progress feels less like measurement and more like momentum. You're moving. That's enough. The inn is fully gone from view now, absorbed by distance and dust. But its presence lingers not as a place, but as a softness you carry forward. You realize that rest doesn't end when you leave shelter. Some of it stays with you, settling into your steps, your breath, your awareness. The road stretches on, patient and unconcerned, and you follow it without urgency. There's no need to rush. Another inn will appear when it does. Until then, there is only walking, breathing, and the quiet comfort of forward motion. The road begins to blur gently at the edges now, not because it's disappearing, but because your attention no longer needs to hold it so tightly. Your breathing slows, deep and deep in each inhale, feeling like it arrives on its own. Each exhale, leaving without effort. The world feels steady, unthreatening, and kind. You imagine the path stretching endlessly, not demanding anything more from you tonight. The dust softens underfoot. The horizon dims into a comfortable, featureless calm. Somewhere far behind, an inn prepares for evening again. Somewhere far ahead, another waits. You don't need to picture either clearly. Your shoulders loosen, your jaw unclenches. Thoughts drift like distant travelers themselves, passing through without stopping. You are safe, you are exactly where you need to be. Let the road carry you now, not forward, but inward toward rest, toward quiet, toward sleep that arrives gently and stays as long as it likes. Sweet dreams.